There you go.
We'll try this second time. Welcome to the June meeting of the San Diego DX Club. I'm Rob, WA3IHV, your new president. Thank you for electing me. We'd like to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, if everyone could rise and take off your hats. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'd like to start off with any guests. Are there any guests here? Tim? Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Tim Cassidy. I'm a newbie. And that's pretty much all I got to say. I live in Bay Park and I've been licensed a number of different times. I just got my extra in February of this year. It's Whiskey, Quebec, 1, Japan. Juliet. J. Yeah, Juliet. Cassidy. Cassidy. Should I be saying anything else? No. No. Yeah. I'm good. Anybody else want to take the mic? Thank you. Thank you. I heard about you somewhere and I've been trying for maybe 2 months and saw the website. Are you Tom? Yeah, I did. Thank you very much for all your information. Fourth Wednesday. I got it. I pay for everything.
You should stay off my frequency.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ray, you're a visitor. Let's have you introduce yourself.
Oh,
And I sent the email to N6RV.
Yeah.
Not Vita.
yeah, we get confused. My name's Ray Benny. I'm from Arizona now. I grew up in San Diego. I don't know if you guys heard me when I talked a little bit ago, but I grew up in San Diego from the 50s through up into the 70s. And I just remember it was my first club I ever joined was the San Diego DX Club, and we met in people's homes in 1963. I think I joined up then. Terry was the only other person that still breathing with us. There was a lot of old timers. We were going through all the old names. I lived in Ventura for 35 years, and then I retired in 2009 and moved to near Prescott. I'm about 15 miles north of Bud, N7CW. So we're neighbors almost. So it's nice to be here. Nice to see the San Diego DX Club again.
Yeah. Well, we have an exciting program tonight. Bud N7CW, who's been a longtime member of the club and whatnot. And where did Jim go? Oh, okay. I'm going to have Jim, who's worked, I think, more than one DXpedition with Bud, so he can tell us what it's like to share a outhouse with him,
so to speak. Okay. What just happened there? Oh, okay. So I'm never sure whether to face the computer or you guys. Anyway, so I'm Jim K6. Huh? Okay. So I'm Jim K6ZH, and Bud and I have known each other for 30 plus years, I would guess. We've done a lot of wild and crazy things over the years, including several DXpeditions that he'll be talking about. He's been on many more than I have, but the craziest one for me was the trip to Canton Island on a boat for 5.5 days at 7 knots both ways. And many, many years ago. Anyway, Bud has been very, very kind to me, and every time I think that we're still good enough friends that every time I call him, he still answers the phone, because every time I call him, I need something. He's the he's the giver, I'm the taker. So anyway, but it's a very, very good friend. He's been lots of places, an excellent speaker, and I'm sure you'll enjoy his presentation here about Kuwait. Bud Seaman, N7 Charlie Whiskey.
You know, it's really bothersome that this is not, I'm not talking louder because I'm using a microphone. It's just so these people can hear me. Thank you, Jim. That was a nice introduction. And so as Jim said, I'm Bud, N7CW. I've been a member of the DX Club since late 80s or something like that. Moved to Prescott in 2006, but because I value you guys and your friendship, so I've never really quit the club. I've just kept paying my dues and reading the newsletter every month. So, so I'm going to talk about the Voodoo Contest Group, and there's lots of history here, which I'll go through. And in 2014, not very recently, partially because of the pandemic, we went to Kuwait, and this is the list of people that went with us. And I'll talk about most of those people in the presentation. And then down at the bottom, I have a list of our hosts, including Hamad 9K2HN. So Bob, I click? Okay, cool. Is it this one? No, this one. Okay, that was a good start.
Double click on it. No, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the background of the Voodoo Contest Group, and you'll see what the farm is, and then what we did in Kuwait building antennas, and then some eating, and then the contest, and then some more eating. So eating was a very prominent part of our trip. Oops. Okay, so first of all, I'll talk about the Voodoo Contest Group. It was originally started by some people you old timers will know, K5VT and G3SXW, Roger Western, who recently passed away, and Vince passed away. It's been quite a while ago, 12 years or something. And Mike, KC7V, and a few other guys who have kind of dropped out, but those three guys sort of maintain the continuity. And we have been going places mostly in Africa for a very long time. And so I'll give you a little bit more detail about that. So these are just some of my favorite pictures from past visits. Some of the places where we went, they put on like presentations for us. And this is the top center one, is one of the groups of people dancing. Actually, the bottom center one is a favorite of mine. That's Roger on the left, G3SXW, and Fred, G4BWP. And they are counting the money to give to the hotel, because in this particular hotel, they would only take local money. And the exchange rate was about 100,000 to 1. So it literally took a wheelbarrow full of money to pay the bill for the 6 or 8 of us that happened to be there that year. And I don't remember that particular, there's so many. It could be Sierra Leone. It was like that. There's a story that goes along with this. When we were leaving, I believe it was Liberia, we were going through security, and they ran the little cloth over our hands and put it in the reader, and it went off. And we said, what? And they dragged us off into secondary inspection. And they said, okay, they pointed at Roger, G3SXW, who was the oldest guy there, and said, you come with us. And he took him in the back room. And he came back out and he said, they made me pee in a cup. And we said, what? And so he explained to them why we were there. And the boss of the security department came out and said, tell me what you guys were here for. And we explained, competition, blah, 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 ham radio. And he said, did you stay in a local hotel? And we said, yes. He said, did you fondle a lot of our money? We said, yes. And he said, okay, that's how you got cocaine on your hands. So there's been some wonderful times. Okay, so here's the history. We started in 1994 by going to Accra in Ghana. And 1995, we went over to Cotonou in Benin. And then 96, 7, and 8, we went back to Lomé in Togo. And then we started doing 2-year, going back 2 years in a row. The first year sort of get an idea of what it is like to operate in a country. And then the second year, we could really do a good job, find a better place to stay. And for each one of these trips, we carried equipment. So we had radios, basically, we took with us every year, but amplifiers, we bought alphas, took them with us, and then left them. Antennas, towers, coax. And by the end of this saga, we had, a quarter of the room here worth of equipment that we had been carrying around through Africa with us. Let's see, in 2001 and 2, we went up to Burkina Faso. And then 3 and 4 over to Niger, sorry, French pronunciation. And then in 5 and 6, we drove back to Bobo Dioulasso, which is in Burkina Faso, and then over to Bamako in Mali. And 7 and 8, we were in Conakry in Guinea. 9 and 10, which was my first trips, we were first 9L5A in Sierra Leone. And then the following year, unfortunately, during that time, Vince K5VT, one of the founders of the group, died that year. And so we got the call 9L5VT in his memory. And then we went to Monrovia, where we were EL2A. And then in 2013, we split up and a bunch of us went to a variety of places. Jim and I went to Peru, where we operated. By the way, I guess I should take a step back. This is all related to the CQ Worldwide CW DX contest. That was the purpose of all these trips. So we're sort of a DXpedition, but more, for most of the guys, the purpose was to participate in the CQ Worldwide CW contest. For me, I just like the pileups. Contest is sort of a secondary thing. So anyway, in 2013, Jim and I went to Peru, where we were hosted by Jack Henry, N6XQ, unfortunately, another silent key. And then Dixon, who was a guy that that helped us in Liberia, he stayed and operated his call in the contest as a voodoo for 2013. And then several guys went off to Cyprus. Thank you. That one always slips my mind. So in 2000, well, okay. So you might wonder, the typical process for us was we find a hotel, we get somebody local to help us. We find a hotel, we go to the hotel and say, hey, can we put up all these massive antennas on your roof? And somehow, probably money exchanges hands, they give us permission. So we go over there Most of those countries you'll see are very close to the equator. So even though it's November, it's 100 degrees. It's 110% humidity. The roofs are covered with black tar. It is freaking miserable. Okay. But we put up towers. We basically put up a super field day station. Lots of monoband Yagis. There's a 160-meter vertical, which you can see going around like that as it's getting erected. It eventually will spring up to life. So you might wonder, why would you put yourself through this? It's like a drug. Okay. It's the CW drug. Once it's in your system, you can't get it out. So in 2014, I don't remember how this happened, but Hamad 9K2HN is a very, very well-known DXer and very good CW operator in Kuwait. And he invited us to come over as the Voodoos. And so we try to invite an old guy. This makes us feel younger. And then we invite rookies. So we invited Bob, W6RGG, who I'm sure some of you know. And we invited 2 rookies this year because they typically get to operate 160 in the daytime, 10 meters at night, and serve coffee the rest of the time. So we needed 2. So we got Dave N4QS, who is a high school friend of mine, and Ray G4FON, who unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. So we head off toward Kuwait. And this is a map of Kuwait, surrounded by, you will notice, very friendly countries to the United States. Okay. And we flew into the city of Kuwait, which is where Hamad has his home. And then there's a road going straight north from the edge of the bay that goes up to the Abdali Farms, which is his family farms. And you'll notice that it's very close to the border with Iraq. We could see into Iraq from the farms. So that was a little bit scary because we didn't know we were going there. What do I do? Oh, it'll come back on. Okay. So we arrived in Kuwait. Hey, nice place you live in there, Hamad. It's 3 o'clock in the morning to us. We didn't, but then we looked up and that's his home station. This is the Dinky station. So if you haven't thought about this, Kuwait is Kuwait because of oil. And that means that everyone who's a Kuwaiti is extremely wealthy and very well educated, by the way. So we stayed in his house for one night. We couldn't sleep. So this is Ned AA7A, 3 o'clock in the morning. He and I were both up. And I took his picture. He's on the air. Oh, pileups. So we'll talk about pileups from 9K2 a little bit later. So we were the early team. We were the workers. We were there to slave away. And so just a picture of us in his station. On the wall behind Mike is a map. It has thousands of pins in the United States. And I said, what is this? He said, oh, I'm a county hunter. I said, oh, come on. I said, do you know what 22 shots are? He said, okay. So we're driving up that road that went straight north, going out to the farm. And you can see by the sign, God bless the US troops, that sentiment from when we rescued them from Iraq was still very strong there. They were incredibly friendly, incredibly hospitable. We tried desperately to spend our money to buy lunch or do something for our hosts. they wouldn't have it. It was really a spectacular visit. So that's the same road in 1991 after the war. So we drive up the road and we look out into the desert, which you can see is just flat nothingness. And there's all these tents. We said, what's going on? He said, oh, well, that's people get tired of the city life. So they go camping in the desert. And that's their way of getting away from the city and back to their roots, because they haven't had oil going in Kuwait very long. They've gone from Bedouins, people that live in the desert like this, to having enough money to buy mansions in just a few years. So we get to the farm and we didn't really know what to expect. Well, it turns out that it's really a farm. And so it's a working farm. So they have the Kuwaitis, and try and say this without any prejudice. They don't do a lot of work, physical manual labor themselves. They bring in people to do that. So the farm was run by people from all over the world, Filipinos and just hired help. Yeah, they're poorly paid hired help. And those guys were very friendly. They found out we were Americans, and that was wonderful. Anyway, this is the pigeon house. I don't know what they do with the pigeons. I never did get that straight, except that they imported these pigeons from France. So why? I don't know. Anyways, just some pictures of the farm, because it is in fact a farm. All this. And the important part. Okay. So now Hamad is, he got permission from his dad to build a contest station on the farm here. And so we'll go through what he did to set this up. It's very impressive. So this is the 5/5 on 10 and 5/5 on 15. Now, the solar cycle was kind of crappy in 2014, but from his location, we did have pretty good conditions, reasonable conditions on 10 and 15. So having both of these antennas always pointed in the same direction was a problem, because you can't independently rotate them. But for those of you that don't know, HFTA is called is high frequency terrain analysis, where you put in a digital file into the software that knows where you are specifically in the earth, and it knows the geography around you. And you say, I want to hear signals on 40 meters from North America. And it goes and looks in that direction at the hills or whatever you have. And then it plots out the optimum height you should put your antenna at. Okay, so all of his antennas were designed for his specific location using HFTA. And so, Tim, when you get to the point where you're going to put up a big tower, give me a call and I'll take you through HFTA, and you can prove that you need a 150-foot tower. No problem. Okay. So he had 5/5 on 20. He had a giant 4-element 40-meter Yagi way up there. And then he had a 5-element 6-meter Yagi. And some number of us were seriously interested in 6 meters. And so we run in and turn the radio on and go to 6 meters and see what we can hear. And the first thing we hear is VU2 GSM. That's India, for those of you that don't know. And we have never heard, and probably will never hear, an VU2 from here or Prescott or any place, maybe in the United States, I don't know. But so we were like, we got to work this guy. And he says, oh, no, I talk to him all the time. So you sort of forget where you are on the world, on the globe. You're way the hell on the other side. So he had put up a 80-meter foursquare, which you can't really see because it's not dark enough in here, but there's a full-size 80-meter foursquare there. Do you? Yeah, he's incredible. So he had built the Ham Shack building for the purpose of housing us, not the food dudes, but visitors, visiting operators. So it had a fully stocked kitchen. Well, I guess that's time for the beer description. So as you'll see in a few minutes, we worked quite hard in very hot weather. And so being who we are, says, oh boy, we would like a nice cold beer. So they're Muslims, mostly devout, and so they don't drink alcohol. But I went to the refrigerator and I opened it up, and there's some Budweiser non-alcoholic beer. And I thought, oh, that can't be horrible. I was wrong. So I don't even want to know. I spit out my first mouthful. It tasted horrible. So we had a resting room. There's Don G3XTT in full action. There was a washer and a dryer, which in this case, I took this picture because not only is the washer and dryer next to the toilet, but it's also the washer and dryer in one box, which I have never seen since and had never seen until that day, but they got it somehow. So 2 bathrooms. There was a fully equipped shop and workroom. So you ask, oh, all these magnificent antennas, what the heck did we have to do? So we brought and built beverages for the low bands. So we installed 750-foot phased beverages pointing at Europe and North America, which worked really well. And then a 500-foot beverage to JA, and which worked, and I'll explain why in a bit. And then a 750-foot beverage to VKZL, which worked kind of which I'll explain too. So here's just some pictures of what we did. This was a lot of work, but they have big fields that were empty. So we just strung these things up. Yeah. And so that we also brought designs and material for 260-meter verticals. So this is basically the design drawing, which we used a couple of his towers to put up, and we phased them. So we had a reasonable facsimile of a 160-meter antenna. So you can't really see them there, but they're both up there and they run up to the towers, and then matched them. It's going to come back. Did I skip something? I can't remember. Well, it was hot when it wasn't raining. Okay, what am I doing? Okay. Help. I can push escape. Okay. So this is just a picture of Ned working and all the managers, the rest of us standing around. And the guy in the blue shirt is 9K2QA, a really, really nice guy. He turned out to be a great second host for Hamad. Okay, it's still not going. Use your magic fingers. Okay. Okay, so this is the way the station was set up originally, was set up for multi-operators, 2 transmitters. And the station in the back left is the 6-meter station. And we had to rearrange this. I don't know what you're doing, but do it again. Okay. So we had rearranged it all into 6 positions because we had 160 through 10, all going not quite simultaneously. Okay. Right now, Ray is on 160 in this case, and that's sort of the typical 160 meters operating pose. It's like, oh, my head hurts. And what is that signal that I'm trying to pull out of the noise? I mean, for those of you that operate at 160, you know, it's agony. Scroll. Okay. And then I'm here on 20, and Ned in the yellow shirt is on 40, and Don in the red shirt on the center is on 15, and John G4IRN. Don is in G3XTT, Ned is AA7A, John is G4IRN. And you look and say, wait, Bud, you said it was hot. Why are you sitting there in your flannel chamois shirt? Well, the air conditioner blows right over the top of G4IRN, the 10-meter station, right onto the 20-meter station. So sitting there requires extra clothing. So we have everything installed. We're ready to go. Yes, the 4-element one was 40. Yeah. So it was the day before Thanksgiving, Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Of course, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving in Kuwait. So, but they knew that we celebrated it. And the lazy Brits, I was going to use another word, but Brits and Bob, W6RGG, they were going to take advantage of the great work we had done installing all those antennas. And so they showed up. So a word about Bob, because he's not here. Okay. Bob is a really nice guy. I roomed with him in Visalia one year. And did he go with us to Canton? No. Okay, I can't remember. Anyway, but Bob, if he ever had a filter on his mouth, he didn't bring it with him. And so after he referred to our hosts as towel heads out loud, it wasn't in front of them. I mean, it was close enough to worry us. You know, I mean, there's not much you can do about the situation. He's there. You can't duct tape his mouth shut. But anyway, he is a really nice guy. Just, okay, now that's not working.
You know how to stand up.
Okay, yes. Okay, Thanksgiving. So I'll show you a second. First things, we're going to have a Thanksgiving celebration. We had brought a present for Hamad as our host. And what we gave him was actually a J38 from Vince K5VT's key collection. If you didn't know, Vince is one of the biggest had one of the largest key collections in the country. So we gave him a key on a board with a nice plaque that said, you know, thank you for hosting the Voodoods. And I guess I didn't say this, but I figure you guys figured out that Voodoo contest group, we don't really say that. We say Voodoods. That's colloquial for members of the group. So these are the guys who are our hosts. Just the friendliest group of hams you could ever hope to meet. Really nice guys. They all spoke perfect English. So this is what they cooked. That's a whole lamb So this is probably a good time to talk about women in Kuwait. So Hamad is married and he has a wife and he has 2 kids, and the 2 kids came down and played with us when we were at his city house. I mean, they wanted to practice their English, which was better than mine. And I mean, they were like 8 and 9 or something like that, a boy and a girl. Cute kids, great kids, very friendly, but we never saw his wife. And so he talked about the fact that he had been to the States visiting stateside. And so I said, so Hamad, so we don't see your wife. Oh no, that's forbidden. You're not allowed to see women members of the family. I said, okay, so if you came to the United States, your wife would come with you, right? And he said, yeah, of course. And I said, if your wife came to visit me in Arizona and we went to the Grand Canyon, presumably I would get to meet your wife because she's there in the car with me. And he says, yeah, no problem. And I could talk to her. And he says, yep, no problem. I could become friends with her. And he said, yep, no problem. Then the next time I come to Kuwait, I could go upstairs in your house and say hi to my new friend, your wife. And he said, nope. Okay, so it's just interesting interpretation of the rules, which I don't understand. So those guys, our hosts, their wives spent basically a whole day cooking this meal for us. It was phenomenal. They saved the best part for me. That's the lamb's head. Yeah, the eyes weren't in it. I checked. So it was a spectacular time. There was no glasses of wine on that table, as you might guess, but we just talked and enjoyed their company. It was just absolutely phenomenal. And the other trips that I've been on, the Africa trips, for example, those countries are less than third world countries. Unless you've been there, you can't imagine how poor those people are. And sometimes we would have one person who is our contact there, and they would spend a lot of time helping us and so forth, but never before had we had this kind of camaraderie and hospitality, and everything was just spectacular. I just can't tell you how much fun it was compared to other places, other hells we had been to. Okay, so I'll talk about the contest a little bit. So here's the team. I always have to have a team picture. So that's everybody, me, Ray, Mike, Don. If you're a IOTA guy, you probably have heard of G3XTT before. There's Bob, Short Bob. There's Ned, Hamad, Dave, and John. So Hamad was our rate enforcer. If you weren't maintaining the proper speed of working guys, he came around. So this is just some pictures of guys operating in the contest. Don, John, me. Oops, that was Ray. It'll come back. You say that. There it is. There's Bob, Ned, Hamad. He's a spectacular CW operator, which was really great. Dave, yes. Yeah. So here's a little bit about the contest. So the first thing we discovered is, hey, we thought, oh, Kuwait, that's pretty rare from the West Coast. You don't hear that many of them. So we're going to have big pileups. Well, not so much. because Kuwait turns out to be number 266 on the most wanted list, right below Barbados. So it's like, oh my God. So you will see what happens when you go someplace that's not really wanted by a lot of DXers around the country, around the world. So this is the situation. Kuwait is in Asia, the continent. So what that means from our point of view is that JA contacts are worth 1 point. Other continents are worth 3 points. So JA wasn't that far away, but we didn't care. And of course, it's right up there as one of the most populated ham radio countries in the world. So there's a lot of QSOs you don't get because you don't work JAs because they're such weedy points. Now, Europe was a sweet spot for us. That's close. Lots of guys, 3 points per QSO. East Coast, pretty far away. West Coast, too damn far. It's like West Coast, we don't care because we can't hear you. So that's just, it gives you a totally different perspective on why they're not working us in the contest. No, it's too far. It's just too damn far. Yes, it really goes that way, but it's just, why waste your time? You can work Europeans 24 hours a day. And so why bother? So you'll notice there's no lines to VKZL or Africa or South America. And that's because we don't care. Okay. Because there's only 3 guys on in each one of those continents. Okay. And so you can go, you can turn your antenna that way. Actually, you're never going to have to turn your antenna that way because they're going to call you until you work them anyway. You don't have to point there. You just work the 3 guys that are on and you never pay attention again to those places. So that's the way the contest worked. And that, I never thought about that perspective in contesting until we were looking at winning, which is what we always did. So here's the results. We had 906 Qs on 160. You can see some pretty big numbers there, 2,741 on 10 meters, 39 zones on all those bands. Lots of countries. So the multi, for those of you that don't know, that means multi-transmitter, multi-operator record for Asia was held by A61AJ, who was a gigantic multi-operator superstation in the United Arab Emirates. And so we submitted our point score of 40 million points, which was, as the raw score, not corrected, was enough to win and set the record. However, as most of you know, if you've operated in this contest, the score is adjusted as a function of, did you make it into, if I work Tim, am I in his log and is he in my log? And so if we didn't get that correct, that exchange correct, they take QSOs out and they penalize you for having that in your log. So we could only afford a score reduction of 3.2%, or else we were going to be below the old A61AJ record. So here's what happened. We lost 1% of our QSOs. So out of 15,000, we lost 150 or whatever that number is. Okay. That's okay. 2%, 3%, sorry, of the points. We lost 1 country We lost no zones. And so that's one multiplier we lost. So the total score reduction was 3%. And we could stand a 3.2% reduction and still beat A61AJ. So the bottom line of all of that is we set a new Asian record for multis. And I'm pretty sure that's okay. I'm pretty sure that that record still stands. So 0.2% out of almost 40 million points. The difference was 63,000 points, which is, so just as a comparison, the score reduction for us was 3%. The median score reduction for all logs submitted in the contest is 8.27%. And we were at 3. And the error rate, median error rate is 2.56 and ours was 1. I don't remember. It's too long ago. But so this is something that we pride ourselves on, okay, is accurate contesting. So that was the key to our success. Nah. So this is a plot of our QSO rate. It'll come back, okay, throughout the contest. And the big deal here is the fact that it falls off toward the end. And that's because we're not a most wanted country. If you look at this same graph for the African countries we operated from, you will see that that line is straight across. From the beginning to the end of the contest, it's basically flat because people are coming on who are not contesters, who want to work us on one band or another, or just the first time ever. And they never stop calling, never stop calling. Just a side story. When we were in Sierra Leone, I was actually on 30 meters before the contest, and I had a humongous pileup. And the guys came in and said, hey, it's lunchtime. They're serving us in the dining room. We need to go. I said, okay, fine. So I sent I can't remember the Q signal. I said QRX, thank you. I said QRX lunch. And I went to lunch. And 45 minutes later, I came back from lunch and I put the headphones on and there's people still calling me. 45 minutes later, they're still calling. It's just, so that's the big difference. And we never did the analysis, but I suspect we would have had another 25% of contacts if we had been someplace really rare. And that's just QSOs by band. 20 is the money band, obviously. Okay, so we won. We probably won. We didn't know we won, but we had a great time. And we thought we were going to set the record. So we were really jazzed. And they said, hey, let's go out for a big celebration. We said, okay, we can do that. So they took us to this old town, old city market. And oh, I forgot to set the rules. The rules are, if you have a question, please interrupt me and I'll answer it, because I can't remember questions for more than about 10 seconds. So
A lot of the air places are called soup.
the souk, right. Yes, you're correct. So Hamad and Ahmed, that's 9K2QA, they wore their formal clothes because they knew we would all be in jeans and they just wanted to make us look bad. So we understood. And by the way, because they were so friendly, I felt it was okay for me to ask questions about like his wife. And why are you wearing these funky robes? He says, hey, in the summertime here, it's like 115 every day. He says, if you think about it, how much air circulates through your suit in the United States compared to how much air circulates through my nice flowing robes here? I said, okay, fine. So just some commentary, political commentary, if you will. Kuwait has people across the spectrum of religious beliefs. Okay. From people who are devout, conservative Muslims to non-believers. And pretty much everybody gets along okay over there. Sort of like we do. Well, we used to here. 2014, we got along a lot better than we're getting along now. But anyway, so that was kind of interesting to see people dressed like this, and then people, women, young girls particularly, in mini skirts and lots of makeup and, you know, no conservative dress at all. However, their fashion tastes are changing, or were changing here at this time. They getting much more brighter colors, and both men and women were wearing these colors. So that was cool. They took us to a robe shop. Okay. And this guy is the guy on the left there is the most famous robe maker in Kuwait, and he's known all around the world. And his robes are super top of the line expensive. They have actual gold inlay, and he sticks with the more conservative colors. And then because we were Americans and we were the guests of Hamad and Ahmed, after we tried on the robes and said, no, we're not buying any of these. He says, oh, well, we got to sit down and have tea. So we got to sit down and have tea with this guy. And he's actually pretty famous. Here he is with now King Charles, okay, back in 2011, and Camilla, okay. And he had these kinds of pictures all over the wall of people famous people that had come to his shop. So they picked this outdoor restaurant. They set up tables in the middle of the shopping center, and they started bringing food. So when you go to places like Africa, or basically any place other than the United States, you learn very quickly, if somebody hasn't warned you, don't drink the water. Well, that means that you can't drink the water, and you can't drink anything that's made with water, grows in water, washed in water, any of that stuff. Well, okay, there's lettuce and all kinds of stuff that was washed in water. So, but we ate and we ate and we ate, and they just kept bringing the food, and it was phenomenally delicious. And we ate, and I never did find out what this stuff is, but it was really good. And it was dessert. So we ate. So we had some Arabic tea at the end, and then they brought in the forklifts to carry us out, because we just ate and ate and ate. And several of us, myself included, proceeded to go home and get sick, because you just couldn't avoid having something that had touched water. So then they took us for more tour. They said, oh, you guys got to have headdresses. So they bought us all headdresses. So we're standing out in the middle of this old city market wearing our new headdresses. And people come by and they say, hey, you guys are Americans. Can I take my picture with you? And so, yeah. So this guy here in the Eagles shirt with his kid, he was just some Kuwaiti guy that happened to be walking by. And he says, would you take my picture with you guys? I said, sure, why not? So, and then I did something totally uncharacteristic. I took a selfie. It was the first selfie I had ever taken. Okay. And Ahmed says, he didn't say dude, but I'm going to say, dude, he says, you could actually pass as a Kuwaiti. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Yeah, I'm one of them. So what's next? We don't have a clue. We never have a clue until it's late in the year. So the thing to keep in mind is just keep your ears tuned for the sweet sounds of Voodoo CW, because you know it's sweet sound. So before I finish, I made a recording of what pileups sound like, because I don't know how many of you may have heard these kind of pileups. I know there's a couple guys. And this particular CW is from our trip to Sierra Leone, where we were 9L5VT. And it's every time I listen to it, I get little goosebumps because I just want to be there and be copying it again. But I thought I would let you listen to what it sounds like to be a really wanted station. That's turned up too loud, way too loud. It's distorted. Yeah, no. Well, they're not gonna be able to hear it now. Well, it's unfortunately the speaker's crappy.
Yeah.
So it's not nearly as good as if you could listen to it through headphones. So, but I don't think we can do anything about it. So that's a really good question. It's probably about between 34 and 36. Because our boss, who was Roger, G3SXW, he sort of set the max speed that we were allowed to operate. So he said at 36, people start not being able to copy you because you're going too fast. But 34, people can copy you okay. So it doesn't apply to everybody, Rob. So, yeah, I mean, and it also depends on, obviously it's going to make a huge difference, for example, what band you're on. Some of the best pileups I've ever run, where I got the 10-minute rate meter up to like 300, was a 10-meter pileup to the United States, because we have very, believe it or not, disciplined operators. And they learn very quickly how to work guys in the pileup. So they send their call one time. You can respond with one call. And outside the contest, you're not sending an contest exchange. So you just send 5NN and you're done. So the pileup on 10 meters would be humongous and loud and all Americans, and you can go really, really fast. A pileup of Europeans under the same conditions would be completely and totally undisciplined. They would never stop calling, and it's almost impossible to work any kind of rate at all. No, it's all Europeans. It's all Europeans, every single damn one of them. So we had one guy, G4BWP, Fred, who was a specialist on 40 meters to Europe at night. We called it the zoo because, like I just said, they never stop calling. They just don't stop. And so you have to pick out a call, and you have to call and call and call till they can hear you calling them back through all the Europeans that are still calling. It's horrible. I mean, people say, oh, Europeans are crappy operators, and maybe it sounds like it's supposed to be a joke or insulting, but it's not. That's the truth. So JAs they're getting worse though. Yeah, but US, and the other thing about the US calls is if you're an active contester, like you guys are, you know a lot of the calls. So sometimes you hear 2 letters and you go, oh, I know who that is. And you fill in the rest of the call. And so that makes it go that much faster. You don't have to ask for a repeat. And the calls are short, exactly. Right. So except for calls like WQ1J, no one would want that call. So, yes. None. We didn't pay. No. That was really a very rare problem for us because we learned pretty quickly that the security people, they understand some things and they don't understand other things. So they don't know ham radio from Jack Diddley. Okay. So you say, we are here to participate in an international competition of radio operators, and we're going to talk to the people from all over the world while we're here in your beautiful country. Usually it's welcome. So yeah, and Kuwait was because we had people like Hamad waiting for us in the airport, just like, not a problem. Sweden never did that. Tim.
And how is it funded? Is that appropriate to ask?
Yes, of course. Okay, so, oh, I'm sorry. So the question is, how much did it cost and how is it funded? One of the differences between the Voodoo Contest Group and I can probably say every other contest group or DXpedition that's out there is we were self-funded. We paid everything. So when we would go to Africa, it would probably cost, and it's not comparable to today's dollars, but I would say in the neighborhood of $15,000, because it's a lot of airfare and you have to pay for a hotel and they see Americans coming. And so it gets expensive, you know. Yep, Mike.
Did you guys all use the same radios or did you have to learn 10 radios?
No, pretty much we all use the same radios. We switched to K3s basically right when they came out. We were pushed. And so that was the answer. The only argument we ever had was about logging software because the Brits wanted to use WinTest and we all wanted to use N1MM. And so there was a really big argument. And there's some pictures floating around of people making obscene gestures during discussions of which contest logging software to use. But, and who won that argument varied from year to year. But finally, G4IRN, he's a software weenie. And he figured out some macros to put in WinTest to make it act exactly like N1MM. And once it did that, it was like, oh, this is no problem. I just push these keys and so. Right, exactly right. Right, right. Got it solved. Yeah, exactly. That plus a little bit of WinTest is formatted to look like the old program whose name CT, right? CT. So that was the original contest logging program. And so anyway, any other questions? Okay.
Why don't you start and we'll go around.
Okay, yeah, hi, Bob LaRose, W6ACU, and I've been on FT8 or FT4 every day. Conditions in the evening are really excellent. During the day, they're crap. And there's been some pretty good 6-meter openings now and then, which including today to the Midwest and East Coast.
All right, Steve, K6RSH, and I was out of the country for the last 3 weeks, and I was in Italy and looking for ham antennas, and I didn't see them that much. I saw some VHF and saw like one vertical HF and one beam, and that was it. And that was from northern Italy down to central Italy. And I'm having trouble with HRD and LOTW, and we've been sitting here the whole time trying to make it work. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, he has no problem uploading. It's the download we can't get. So if anybody has an answer, jump in. Steve, W6SMK, haven't done much, worked a little bit FT8 this month, but nothing really new. No big stations hit. So that's about it.
Danny, WB6FWS, same deal, mainly FT4, FT8, 6 meters. And it's pretty, 6 meters is really starting to get quite interesting. So I might actually put my beam back up. I've been working everything off just a Ringo Ranger and talking to, Argentina and the whole works, with on a Ringo Ranger, 100 watts.
Tom, N7CW. I don't know if I said this last month or not, but I've got 2 all-time new ones. Yeah, one of the New Guinea stations, and I got Ethiopia the other day. And I checked it on the club log. I'm in his log. I already sent him a QRS. So don't know how long it take to get it back, but that's on my new radio. I don't know if you heard about it. I went to Visalia. Wasn't quite as lucky as Mike, but I got a 7610. I didn't get the one he got. But that's what I went up there to get, was a 7610. And I came back with it. That's all for me. Well,
Noel AG6KA missed last month because I started a new job because my wife said to get a job. But today in the mail, I got a Wolf River coil antenna. So with this job, I'm going to Georgia in August. So I'm going to work the East Coast and hopefully Europe and Africa.
I'm Brian, KN6MJK. Been working some FT8, not a lot, a little bit of sideband, mostly 40 meter. So it's, pretty local, but not as much as I had been working. It's just haven't had the time to work a lot of radio. Nothing spectacular this time. In the past, did some good stuff, but recently not so good.
Rob WA3IHV, worked a little bit of field day, 15-meter CW for a couple of hours. Had some fun. I'm still not very good with the keyboard getting the calls into the log, but I can copy them fine and write them down fine, but I just can't get coordinated enough to use the keyboard. So I need more practice that way till I can become a real contester.
John, N6WST, got a little bit of time, fool around field day or whatever, but otherwise been kind of quiet.
Donnelly on 6PTF, not much to report here. You already heard from me, Tim, WQ1J. And, I just started up, as I mentioned to you, and in the evenings, I just light it up and try to reach out as far as I can get. And I'm surprised none of the places are going to thrill you, but I get to other countries amazingly. And we talk and I move on, and I don't know anything more than that. I'm here to learn. I have a dipole that I listen on. I'm getting a vertical up right now, and I have a Italian magnetic loop that does pretty well for me, but evidently it doesn't. But I think it's great. But when you start out, you think everything's great. So thank you very much for having me today.
So I guess I don't need to say who I am. But for those of you that don't know, about a year and a half ago, my tower came down. It cable snapped when it was like 6 inches from the top. Is a 90-foot US tower with a huge Christmas tree stack on top. It came down, all the antennas were destroyed, tower was totaled, and that was pretty demoralizing. So it's taken me until now to get a new tower. It's actually an old tower, but new to me. And so it's in my yard now. It's been there for about a week. In the meantime, I've been on the air with an R7, and which is a vertical like he's got. And I managed to work FT8WW, which was a new one for me from Prescott. And I also managed to work Bouvet, which was obviously a new one for me from Prescott. So 2 new ones from Prescott on the R7. So I was amazed myself. So I'm looking forward. I'm here actually to pick up a step IR from Jim and get back on the air seriously here, hopefully by the end of the summer.
I'm W6NBU. I've been away from the club for a while. Not much going on. I just do mostly light casual CW contesting. Replaced my ground mounted R8 with a Gap Titan, so I don't have buds type of problems.
Go ahead. She's Joan, N6K I am. Jim K6ZH. I was on field day this last weekend at the Point Loma Club. W6 Alpha was the call we were using. So I was the lone CW operator. So made 750 Qs in the 10 hours or so I was on. So it was good conditions. 40, 20, and 15 were fabulous. So no complaints about that. We were up at our place in Goldfield last week for 5 days of absolutely no signals on 6 meters. I worked like 4 guys on the first evening, they were W9s, and nothing else the entire time that we were there, which is really sad because I like to work guys from the rare grid square there. We won't be back again till latter part of July. Worked a few new band countries here and there. Conditions have been pretty good. 6 meters was great during the June VHF contest. It was open the entire weekend here. I got 5 new grids. I have only have 30 to go for the Fred Fish Memorial Award for all the CONUS things. I won't live long enough to do that, but only needs one, which was on the air last weekend off the coast of Louisiana, but we didn't have any propagation out this way, unfortunately.
Mike, NA6MB, been playing around with the new K4D that I won in Visalia, or Gail and I won in Visalia. Got since we got the K4D, let's get the KPA 1500. So we ordered that. That came in about 2 weeks ago. Got that. I haven't really got it running yet. It's installed, but not connected that much. I tried out the K4 first couple of days. I had it in with the microphone that came with it, just a hand mic. And the guys I was talking to says, "Are there a lot of people in the room?" Because the TV was on in the room, and I had never had that problem with the, we have a PR40 high mic that's really right into your face directional. So I was waiting for the cable to come because I have all Yaesu stuff. We have all Yaesu radios before. Now we're doing Elecraft, and we have ICOMs and all that too, but a lot of FT8, some sideband. Did field day from Lake Poway with the Poway group. It was fun. I'd have to agree that I would say the conditions got better as the day went on, because at noon I was on 15 and it wasn't that great from there, but it got better and better as the day went on. So that's about it.
Gail, K6GO, and the Poway folks, Bob, John, that were there with us up at the lake. Not a great spot, but so beautiful. And we could spread out and a lot of shade and nice trees, but not great.
People stop by.
A lot of people stopped by, and we had dignitaries and a city council person and a school board person. And that was really good. And a young man, and Bob worked with him for a while he made his first contact, correct? Young man, high school. Yeah, high school freshman. And he is so enthusiastic. So it's all about giving back. And that's our field day report. It'll be even better next year.
I'm Jim W6YA, a visitor tonight. And it's been a long time since there were any new ones. Mostly just poking around on CW and SSB, looking for old friends and interesting calls and interesting DX, CW and SSB. Some of you may remember those old modes. CW and SSB, do you remember those? Anyway, it's good to see conditions improving, but the number of stations on those two modes is decreasing dramatically. Enough said.
Terry N7CW. I haven't been doing too much for my home. In March, I went over to Hawaii to operate the multi station, big station on Oahu for the WPX sideband. And we came in second in the world. And then in May, I went back for the WPX CW from the same station. Again, multi, and we came in fifth in the world so far. And between those two, I'm radioed out, and I just haven't had any interest at all in getting back on the radio. Yeah, I was a 10-meter op both times. And sideband was great. I beat everybody in our station with QSOs with about 2,500. CW conditions were not good on 10, but they were great on the other band. Well, 15 and 20 never closed down. It was open 24 hours a day, both days. And 10 was fair the first day, and it went right in the toilet on the second day. And that was the end of that.
I'm Ray. I kind of spoke already about things. I grew up in San Diego, lived 35 years in Ventura, and retired in 2009. I kind of moved to kind of a ham's paradise area. Tower permits are no problem. I bought 2.5 acres, and I've got 4 permitted towers up, one 100-foot Sky Needle and 70-footers at a 54-foot. And then I acquired another 2.5 acres. It's a dream for me. Really, it is. I've got a 80-meter 4-square high Z receive low band antenna. I hear well, I do well, and just glad to be there. What's that? It's just north of, it's called Chino Valley. It's just north of Prescott, a few miles. It's rolling hills, and I've got a negative horizon from north to almost south. So I got.
Okay, we'll invite in our Zoom people. Bob, go ahead.
Well, hi, everyone. And I want to thank Bud for his presentation. That was just outstanding. And I spent a lot of time traveling in that part of the world, and I can certainly vouch for everything he said about the hospitality and the socioeconomic conditions and what have you. So thank you for that. That was excellent. No DX to report. I'm working on a remote station. So by next time I may have a little bit bigger list of things to talk about. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Okay, great. Lou? Unmute.
You're muted, Lou.
Lou, you're still muted.
Okay, how's that? Better?
That's good. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Normally, they must have made a change to my version of Zoom. Normally, if you hit the space bar, you unmute when you're muted, but they're not working here. Anyway, I'm sorry I couldn't be at the meeting. It was so bad. I'm going fishing tomorrow about 4 o'clock in the morning to Canada, And so I had a lot of things to do. And but the worst part of it was I had to make food for myself compared to what the wonderful food at the restaurant. I visited this weekend with Bob, AK6R. He was doing a little field day in his yard, and I was amazed at how bad things sounded, at least while I was there. So I'm surprised that many of you said the conditions were better. I also listened here and didn't sound too good either, but I was just on for a little bit. Enjoyed the presentation very much. And as I said, I did miss the food. And Jim, I saw you driving your car, W6YA, while I was going to the Y earlier today. So welcome back to the club, at least for now. See you all.
Okay, thank you, Bud.
Bud here, E6BH, and yeah, Lou, the space bar does work for push to talk, but you have to be Zoom has to be your active window on your screen. Anyway, not really anything to report. I don't think I've turned on HF for a month or so, just been swamped with other projects around the house and the yard. I did go to field day for ears, and yeah, conditions were bad most of the day. Nighttime really seemed to open up. I ran the VHF UHF tent as I usually do, and it was pitiful. Maybe, well, I know the total. I think I got 46 total contacts from the entirety of the field day. Didn't ever hear a single station, a big field day station in San Diego. Didn't hear Poway on VHF, UHF at all, or on FT8 or on a phone. But I think total phone contacts on the field day was only 13. The rest were FT8, and all of those on 6 meters. You usually get a handful of VHF, 2 meter and 440 FT8s and phones, but yeah, pretty sad. But gosh, boy, the guys were going gangbusters at nighttime on 40 meters, especially both CW and phone. Friday, Saturday night, 9-10 o'clock. So that's it for me. Great presentation there, Bud. Really appreciate it. It's very interesting.
Okay, good. Randy, you're up next.
All right, be sure to unmute. I participated a little bit in the field day, operated from my bicycle on top of Black Mountain, which I always thought would be a really great place to operate from. And it's got a really high noise level. I guess there must be hundreds of switching mode power supplies. I think most of this stuff up there must be VHF to microwave, but had pretty much a constant S7, S8 noise level. And this is just strictly on 20 meters. I've got a 17-foot telescopic vertical with a ground radial. But anyone I could hear, I could get at 100 watts to operate. They're doing also still a fair amount of high altitude ballooning work. So that's been kind of fun. So that's it for me.
Okay, great. Steve, you're next.
Yeah, hi, everybody. This is Steve, NF6V from home and currently VK3JA. And Bud, I wanted to tell you how much I enjoyed that presentation. I never really understood that you were part of that voodoo group. So forgive me there. I always think of Roger, who I met a couple of times at Visalia or wherever, and I've neglected to figure out who else is in there. So I really enjoyed your talk today, and I look forward to sometime I can see you again. And I'll drag you out all night with questions and comments on that. I was going through my QSL cards during the presentation, and I came across a mods card there and the photo of the place where you were, and it kind of made me feel a little connection with it all. It was a good story. So that's it. I guess I'm going to be coming back to San Diego either in September or October, and I'll try to arrange the schedule so I can come in and meet you all face to face. Thanks for a good meeting tonight or today.
All right, great. Dennis, are you with us?
Unmute, Dennis.
Leave your mask on.
No audio.
Yeah, Dennis, you're not muted, but you've got no audio.
I guess not. Any old business?
Yes. So I think that we need to get somebody or a committee or some board member or something to contact megahertz and see where our banner is and a couple of coolers at the Lobos and these huge coolers that we had at Randy's house. The last time we had the bash at Randy's, we haven't seen the banner since, and I think Pat's got it.
How many coolers were there?
I believe there's 2.
Okay. I can give him a call and see. Any other old business? New business, I just have a couple of items unless anyone else has any new business that they want to discuss. The Constitution and bylaws are from 2009, so we're working on rewriting them and bringing them up to date. One thing that's very glaring is for a quorum, it says it has to be a quorum of members present, but it doesn't include Zoom members. So that has to be updated, and there's some other things. We're also updating the website. It's been kind of clunking along for a bit, so we're gonna have somebody work on the website for us professionally. The bash, I guess, is off for this summer, although,
It's on
the bash?
It's way north.
Burbank.
No.
And-
Then
Van Nuys, no, that's just the picnic for Southern California DX, but there's no bash. So I was gonna say, everyone is welcome to July 9th and go to the Southern California DX Club website if you're interested. It's in Van Nuys at some park up there. They're looking forward to having us. And I think that's it for the new business that we have.
you want to mention Carl Cardasis?
Cardenas.
Cardenas Memorial is July 10th or something.
Carl passed away from Montana.
Yeah.
We have a memorial forum up in LA area.
Yeah, she wouldn't get into it, but she said that he was doing something, you know.
Is it what?
He was doing something and he loved.
Oh,
Somebody else passed away after too. Oh, K6EBR.
Anyone have anything else?
Next year's by Zelia. Southern California is gonna help, and I'm putting on. San Diego is gonna help. Some guys in Northern are gonna help, some guys in Utah. So, there's no date set yet to give you reservations. Coming soon.
I understand you, Nerd, Gail and Mike have already volunteered to help on Visalia.
And Brian also.
Oh, Brian also. Okay. Go back to sleep.
We'll
Okay,
also help with registration.
good. And you can count me in.
It's really gonna be more of a united north and south thing, not northern Cal versus southern Cal, and I think that's good.
And it's gonna be in the same place.
Looks like N6CW coming in on the second.
Dennis. Oh, there we go.
Does he have sound over?
Nope. No sound. Down the key, Dennis, pick up the microphone. Yeah, there's a learning curve. The
you have any other?
I don't have anything else. We're adjourned till next month. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Happy July 4th. Yeah. Thanks very much.
I'm glad to see you.